Hello everyone, welcome to the Redmen TV. I'm Ste. This is Errol Smith. This is the Player Ratings podcast. After Liverpool went out of the FA Cup, they were beaten by Plymouth Argyle 1-0 in a very sombering afternoon down on the south coast for the Reds. Just a few days, of course, after they booked themselves a place in a cup final, they fall to the bottom side in the Championship. We're going to speak about some individual players in a moment. Spoiler alert, it's probably not going to be in glowing terms, given what just happened there. Before we do, Errol, I want to ask you this question, buddy. Initial reaction to that, in terms of what we've just witnessed, what we've just seen, how you're feeling about what it means for the season ahead, changes to the side, players let down. You have the floor just to say what your initial 30 seconds or so on that.
That's the magic of the FA Cup, and that was a proper humbling, and unfortunately that was the anticlimax to what otherwise was a really good week in terms of the Liverpool sphere. And look, you can dig out you know the players, and you can dig out slots, team selection and so on and so forth. You can look back to the start of the week, obviously the transfer window closing, and you could dig out the inactivity. But ultimately, I feel sorry for those travelling fans, those fans that have got up at 4:30 in the morning today to go down there. I don't mind losing sometimes when you lose to the better team, but you've got to put in a performance. You've got to give something for people to go away and say, we was hard done to there. The other team won. They was better on the day. They played better than us. Liverpool fans can't say that today, because to a man, they was all way below par. And the last thing I'll say before I bat it back to you is, for me, losing Joe Gomez early in that game was massive, because we had the conversation about how does he coordinate the players from defence, and does he leave Endo in there and will McConnell come over to the right. I think he did that on purpose, because he realised that three, ideally against this team that are big lads, all up for it, physical in the Championship, they don't want to lose those battles in the midfield. So I'll put Endo in there as a little bit of a safety net and a little bit of a contingency plan to just kind of shore things up. And if he needs to get a little bit physical, he'll be the one. He'll be a bit of an enforcer for us today. And then his hand was quickly turned for him, and he had to bring Endo back, and all of a sudden he has to revert to the midfield three that he probably didn't want in there. You can tell it was very disjointed from that moment. It was disjointed before Joe goes off, but obviously the game hadn't really gotten into a flow. And those three, for the best part of that first half and early into the second half, they just couldn't quite work it out between themselves. And I think that just didn't really help give us the foundation to really put in any semblance of a solid performance today. So there are circumstances that went against us, but in the face of that adversity, there was quality players that we should be calling upon to step up for Liverpool and help us out today, and they fell short for me.
I was going to say, let's talk team selection first then, because the manager rested all the players. I think we all, after Thursday, get into a final, the turnaround's fast. I think now there's like 5 games coming in the next couple of weeks or whatever, like the players needed a break. So, and he chose not to even put them on the bench. He's left loads of them at home. I saw some people, going, this is what happens when you disrespect the FA Cup, and I get that, but I think the manager made the right decision. Again, Liverpool lost the game, so it's hard to know. We'll find out if Liverpool go on and win whatever they go and win, hopefully more this season, and we'll see how it goes. But I didn't blame him after playing, a game that he was trailing 1-0 and had to put a lot of effort in on Thursday. The manager, he did similar to what he did in PSV and left them all behind, and he put his trust in other players. Now, those players didn't deliver, and that's one thing, but are you okay with the fact that he left Alisson, Van Dijk, Konate, Salah, Szoboszlai, McAllister, not only off the team, but not even on the bench as well?
Obviously now we've lost, no. Hindsight's in it.
Was you okay with it before the kickoff?
Before the kickoff, I was okay with it, yeah. But we said it a number of times leading up to the game that it was the 11 on the pitch. It was almost up to them, and we kept alluding to the fact that there's firepower, and we had the fucking water pistol at the end of the day, because there was no real firepower. It turned out like apart from that one effort from Jota where he just swings a leg at it. Again, he's got the technique to do it and pull it off, but it's a hit and hope. It was never really a well-crafted opportunity. It just falls to him, and he has the wherewithal to just be able to spin and hit it. Great save by the keeper, and you just knew. I said, just call the time there. It's done with that. If that's the best we can muster up in 90 minutes, the game's done. For me, the not having them wasn't the issue. It was the fact that the quality that we did bring to the party didn't want to turn up for us.
And we'll speak about some individual players later, of course, and we can do. But I feel like before we talk about the senior players and stuff, I think it was really telling that he didn't bring Curtis Jones on.
Yeah,
he has one sub, but he could have made two subs there because obviously Liverpool, you have 3 substitution slots. They use one on Joe Gomez early on, and then he makes the change, doesn't he? When he brings Darwin on,
from Mbaya, he goes off,
and then he can do what he wants there,
and then he brings on Cohen.
He's got one more slot to make it, for pardon the pun, to make a change, and he just makes one. He brings Trent Cohen-Doherty on, so he leaves 2 subs off. He doesn't make them, but also he doesn't bring Curtis Jones on at that point. That to me says he's made the decision. It's all about Wednesday. If we get run out of this game, fine, but I am managing minutes of players because Curtis. That's the point he comes. I either brought him on at half time, but the fact that the manager doesn't kind of suggest he's made a decision based perhaps on his medical team or his fitness team or just a gut feeling. Listen, I've got bigger fish to fry, because I think not bringing Curtis on is a very telling point there from what the manager's thinking about this game.
Well, yeah, maybe, again, there's a lot of football still left to be played. He's wrapped up. He's guaranteed to be in one final so far this season. That is a tick on his objectives at the start of the season. Get to a final. I've ticked that off the list now. It's not necessarily greedy, and we all want to be able to say we're going to go far in every single cup competition, but I think if he's starting to manage the minutes now, he's probably looking at this fixture schedule pile up and thinking, bloody hell, where do these lads get a rest at this moment in time, and what can I do to kind of alleviate that, with my selections and how I do it. So I understand why he's left Curtis out at that point, and he hasn't chose to roll the dice, because he's operating from he as a manager or head coach is operating from as a position of power. I've got that in the bank. I'm in a strong position in the Premier League. We've got to buy into the Champions League, the round of 16 or the whatever that looks like. I don't have to roll the dice here. Yeah. And if we ultimately come up with a moment, we'll ride it and we'll see where it gets us when it comes to the draw, and we'll manage it. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. But ultimately in this tiny moment, I'm not going to overfixate on it. That's a manager's call, and I think he's earned the right to be able to make those calls. I can't lay too much blame at his door, because my gut feeling for this match anyway was there are players that are on the fringes that ultimately, if they want to feature more within this season, they are going to have to start creating moments for themselves to put them in the thoughts of the manager, and they haven't done that. So I would be looking more at, you've got to look, and we'll get into the individuals, but you've got to look at those individuals and start to think, well, if you now sit on the bench from now until the back end of March, you've only got yourself to blame because you haven't put it in.
I was about to say, there's some lads there who are going to struggle for minutes now, like this, and they were the more senior players in this team.
That's what I'm saying. But that's on you, bro. That is on you. You've got nobody else to blame. You can't look to your man. Don't care how well you're training, because we've got momentum in the league. We've got the momentum in the Champions League. We're a well-oiled and well-drilled machine right now. You can't expect I'm training really well, and I know, again, we'll talk about Harvey in a minute, but he said the right things. He's not going anywhere. This is his team and it's a family, and I get all of that. But you can't be sitting there now saying, I'm ripping up trees and training and I'm doing everything I am. Gaffer, when am I going to get minutes? Lad, you'd have had your minutes if you'd have got into the next round of the fucking, we'll see you Plymouth draw. If Plymouth get another lower league team and it's just like a bit of a toss-up for them, that could have been us getting another easier set, pathway towards the FA Cup. So they've only got themselves to blame, and they really should be looking at themselves on the way back home thinking, I've done myself absolutely no favours in getting into the manager's plans from now until the run-in, because ultimately I wasn't good enough today. And when I was called upon and needed to be ready to perform, I've let the team down. And again, it could be said to a man from the back to front that, there's a couple of defenders in there that might get a little bit of saving grace. But again, they're going to be on the fringes of things anyway, just as the nature of defending. But the lads that you're looking from your midfield engine room right across that front three, if they're not as heavily featured as they would like between now and the end of the season, today's a real eye-opener as to why you're not favoured.
I think
some
of those senior players really let the manager down today.
Yeah,
he's picked a team that's good enough to beat that team, and he didn't. And ultimately, they've more than paid the price.
How many? Right, so you said 4 goals, 4-0. Was it 4-0? You said prediction.
Yeah.
Okay, I said 3-0. So we both predicted goals across the front three in that. Did our front three have 4 shots between the 3 of them?
Not many of them. No, yeah, you're right. It was.
There we go.
It did not go.
Didn't materialise.
No, it was really poor, and ultimately Liverpool paid the price for that one.